Yep.
Nigel.
How are you doing?
Thank you very much. Jamie Williams. Yes. First things first. The first question I think all Reading fans would like me to ask you: do you honestly believe that you can keep Reading in the Premier League this season?
We've got to believe. We've got to do it. And we talk about it. I've joined Reading Football Club. I want to be in the Premier League. And first of all, can I just turn around and say, you know, I've not made any comments since my dismissal at Southampton. I need to take this opportunity to thank all the people at Southampton, the staff, the players and the supporters, because we were on a fantastic journey. And what I've got to do now is say thank you to that, but we've all got to move on. And I'm really pleased and privileged to be the Reading manager now. And answering your question, yes, we've got to have a belief and we've got to have a desire to take one game at a time and make sure this football club remains in the Premier League. And that's what I've come here to do.
Well, look, my next question was going to say you've got a pretty impressive CV. Why Reading?
It's a good football club, first and foremost. I was impressed when I met the owner. I was impressed when I met Nick. It's a good football club. I've met Sir John over the years, and I've always known that Reading is a very, very good football club. And when we look at it, we're in the Premier League. We've got to make sure that we remain in the Premier League. But there's stability here, there's a future looking forward, and I'm excited about the prospect of being here.
Nigel, you can't talk about the facts of the departure from Southampton, but just describe your emotions going from the dismissal there to getting this job back in the Premier League.
As you rightly said, Fraser, I can't talk about the situation that's gone on there. That's in the hands of the League Managers Association. But I'm just looking at the future now. That's the important thing. We look to the future.
The emotional change you've gone through.
It's been great. I've had 2 months out, and you know, I've gone around Europe. I've gone and seen different things, and I'm excited about the future now. I'm a football man. I'm passionate about playing football. I'm passionate about all things that go on in football, and we're in the Premier League. We're at Reading Football Club, which is an excellent football club. You know, I know the supporters are good. We had a great rivalry last season. You know, Reading were the champions of the Championship. They're in the Premier League and they're in there fighting, and they've got a good spirit amongst themselves. They always have done, and I'm looking forward to getting amongst the players and you know, looking to the next game, which is Arsenal on Saturday.
Tell us when you first had discussions with Reading, and I know it was an open process, but they were talking and discussing the job with Gus Poyet as well. How do you feel about that, although you're the man now sitting here?
Listen, it's fair to say I was in Germany when the situation happened with Brian, and the owner's got to do what he believes is right, and we move forward on that one. And it's fair to say that Reading wasn't on the agenda at the time when I was over in Germany, and that was a great trip that I spent out there, learning all the time. Good conversations that we've had, very good conversations, very positive. As I said, I'm really looking forward to the next stage now, moving on, and that's what we've got to do. We look to the future. We're at Reading, we're all together, we're all going to work very, very hard. We've got a big game at the weekend, we're all going to pull in the same direction. I think that's the important thing now. You know, it's a great challenge we've got.
Your first home match here is against Southampton, a week on Saturday. Just explain how much you're relishing going into that game. Do you feel you've got a point to prove, and do you feel you can reel them in? You're 8 points behind them now with 8 games left?
I think the important thing is the next game is the most important one, and that's Arsenal. I know where you're coming from with Southampton. That's the game after that, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of talk about that. But I'm just being appointed the Reading manager, and I think it's important that we are respectful for that. It is about Reading Football Club, and we're looking forward to the next game in charge, which is going to be the Arsenal game, and we're going to take it one game at a time. I think that's the important thing. We put all our energies into the one game, do everything we can to go and win it, analyse it, put it to bed, and then we'll move on to the next game, which will take us count.
Anton, if I can ask you please, explain the process in bringing Nigel here in terms of speaking to the other managers. We know you spoke to Gus Poyet, and tell us how happy you are that Nigel is the man here now.
I think Nigel is here, so definitely we're happy, and to be honest, that's the only thing that I want to talk about is Nigel, because Nigel is here. Nigel is the man for the job.
Do you have the utmost confidence that you'll be a Premier League club next season, or have you spoken to Nigel with a big view on coming back from the Championship next season?
I think definitely we have a good chance. We're in the Premier League. We have 8 games to go, winnable games. So we'll do our best, and then sit down at the end of the season and decide what we're going to do next.
How difficult a decision was it for you to dispense with the services of Brian McDermott? You haven't spoken about that since.
I'd like to stress that it was a really difficult decision for me to do. It was a really difficult decision, and just personally, because I have a good relationship with Brian, and I think he's a great person. So it was a really difficult personal decision to do, but I said it's the right time to move forward.
Nigel,
stating the fact, Brian McDermott, the manager you sacked last season, finished above the man that's sitting next to you, and finished above the man you also had discussions about on replacing him, Gus Poyet. How much are you going to back the man next to you? Because I think a lot of the Reading fans feel you didn't back Brian McDermott last summer when the other two promoted clubs, West Ham and Southampton, were backed. The man next to you was able to spend close to £40 million and played a lot of money for one player, Gaston Ramirez.
Well, it was obviously a decision that we all took. It wasn't somebody's decision. So we did what we do, but that's in the past again. I don't really want to go into that. As I said, I'm backing Nigel up definitely. So we'll see what we need to do. We haven't discussed any specifics. As I said, we'll wait till the end of the season and then see what needs to be done.
But is he going to get a bigger budget than Brian McDermott is, depending on what league you're in this summer?
Obviously.
Bigger budget?
I mean, I can say I just want to say that there was always a budget. That's it. That's the only comment I want to do. And I thought that we should have done more in January.
You should have done more in January. You yourself did not give Brian enough funds.
Huh?
You yourself admitting you did not give Brian enough funds in January.
I thought we should have spent more.
You feel if you had spent more, you would be definitely staying up?
Well, as you all know, we've tried to sign players, but I thought we should have been a bit more active.
And my final one to the chairman, Mr. Nadesky. How pleased are you to see a good football man like Nigel Adkins as the manager? And how difficult was it for you to see Brian McDermott depart? You've been here so long. Brian was at the club for 13 years.
I just want to say that Brian's a very good manager, and he'll pop up somewhere else. I think that Nigel Adkins is a fantastic choice, bearing in mind where we are at the moment. It's Anton's appointment, and he's worked very hard on this. And of course, Anton's a consummate football person, which I'm not. So anything to do with football, Anton has a much better idea about than I do. So any questions about the football club in terms of football should be addressed to him.
Nigel, you said that.
Well, there you have it then. Quite an interesting news conference. We're just going to pull out of it just there. We heard from the new manager at Reading, Nigel Adkins, and we heard from Anton Zingarevich and John Medeski. Just a quick roundup of that. Nigel Adkins saying 2 months out of football, he went all around Europe. He's a football man. He's been learning more about football, and he said they're all in there fighting for Reading, fighting in pulling in the right direction. He did have a few words for Southampton, though. First chance he's had to say thank you to the staff, the players and supporters at Southampton, but very keen to move on and talk about Reading Football Club.
Yep, the owner, Anton Zingarevich, also said a few words. He did say that it was a difficult decision to sack former manager Brian McDermott, and he considered he felt he was a great person, but it was the right time to move forward. He's also backed his club to stay in the Premier League and says there was always a budget and there will continue to be a budget for Nigel Adkins to spend on players, yet wouldn't discuss how much exactly would be up for using.
But did admit should have spent more in January. We'll have much more of that, of course, throughout the day. Now, to the latest on Coventry's future. They're back in the High Court today after one of the club's